Hello, Steve White, Trekboy89 for SteveArts89. Well, while I'm reveling in the cancellation of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, they're getting an abbreviated fifth season to wind things up, but basically they've been cancelled, and I'm glad because they can't do any more harm, well, not much more harm. Now, the series had a lot of potential. I was one of those people who wanted it, who was calling for it, but it quickly descended into parody, and the problem is the people who are making the show never really got the original series. They watched Star Trek sort of from outside. They looked back at it as some sort of 60s throwback, like it was some sort of joke or supposed to be ironic like the 1960s Batman series. It was never meant to be ironic. It was never meant to be camp, and it's only people who can't view things in their context that see a 60s show like that and look at it and laugh at it, and they find that entertaining, and I think that makes them a fan. That's the kind of people who are working on the new show. And that shows by it basically becoming a parody. So the idea of redoing the original Star Trek is something that's been brought up. Now, Akiva Goldsman said, I think in an interview, that it's unclear whether they meant if we'd kept going with Strange New Worlds, we would have gone into the original series and remade the original series, or they were suggesting that if they continued, they would have made an original series, or that they should or maybe still could. I think he was being vague enough that I wasn't quite sure what he was saying. But the idea has sort of offended and got a lot of Trekkies upset about that. And I agree to a degree. Like, I agree that they shouldn't be redoing the original Star Trek or doing a version of the original Star Trek. But the idea of doing a remake, a modern version of the original series, doesn't bother me. I think that could be good if someone else did it. Someone who actually got Star Trek and wanted to take all the elements that made Star Trek unique and iconic and a phenomenon and, just put that into a modern show with, today's production values. I think it could be good. I had no problem with the JJ films because they established right away they were in another timeline and another universe. Now, they've since revised that for the other series and tried to act like they're all the same universe, and that caused part of the big problem and the divide with Star Trek fans, because they were telling us that this non-canon show from another universe was the original series in canon, and just telling us, no, that is how the Enterprise looks, when it's clearly a totally different ship. That's what the uniforms were like when they clearly were, that's what the Klingons were like when they're clearly different. It's like, it was just insulting, and it made it impossible. Had they said from the start, hey, we're doing a reboot, it's all going to be new in different universe and everything, so we can all have new adventures and you can watch it separately, fresh eyes, I think fans would have embraced it more. Now, the idea of those people who failed to do Star Trek in this era doing it is horrific. But the idea of someone else doing it doesn't bother me, because, I like Star Trek. I'm a purist. I love the original. I respect it. I think as a fan, you have to see what makes it unique and respect it and appreciate it for that, rather than just enjoying it on some superficial level, like the people, like I said, who would watch it and sort of laugh at it for it being at least old, fun, campy 60s series. And I don't think they ever saw it. But if you do sort of get the show, I don't have any problem with someone else doing it. Like, I enjoy the Gold Key comics. They're totally different, but I know that. And no one's saying they're accurate to the TV series or anything. So I can enjoy them in their own little universe. And like the DC comics between Star Trek 2 and 3 and Star Trek 4 and 5, where they, or is it 3 and 4? Basically, they had the Enterprise was gone, of course, so they had the crew on the Excelsior, and they just did all this wild stuff in between films because they didn't know what was going to happen in the next film. I like all that stuff. It's not canon. It's like another little universe, but it's fine. So I'm not some people are so limited they can't, it's like, no, it has to be this. I can only watch it as it was. Like the people who couldn't watch Star Trek, the original series, once it was remastered, they're like, no, I have to see the original effects. It can't change. And like, you can update and change things without ruining it. You can remake something without destroying the old. Trying to redo it and say it's the same universe, and somehow this is no way that they can do that. Saying it's a different timeline or a different universe, a reboot, separate, I'm not that opposed by it if someone else were doing it. These people can't do it. They've proven they can't do it. and they've run Star Trek into the ground when Star Trek really could have benefited from the streaming wars. So we could have had a whole bunch of, big budget Star Trek series made that gave us all the things we wanted to see superficially that we could never afford with the original shows. But instead we got this other show that wasn't really Star Trek, and most of the money went to the 23 producers on the show as opposed to on the actual screen, and there's so many issues with it. So no, I'm not opposed to the idea of redoing the original Star Trek, just the idea of these people doing it, as an extension of or continuation of Strange New Worlds and Discovery and all of that. Someone coming in a couple of years and just starting from scratch and just doing the original Star Trek over again as a reboot with modern technology and everything, I don't have a problem with that. Assuming they get Star Trek and they're trying to make Star Trek, not make fun of or, do some, dismemberment of it. So yeah, I just wanted to put my 2 cents worth in. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think.